My name is Chris Fischer. I grew up chasing fish and frogs around Kentucky. I fell in love with the water when I was very, very young. I was going fishing and running around in the woods every day after school. And I had two really amazing parents. And these parents, my father was very, very entrepreneurial. He was kind of a serial entrepreneur, and he taught us all these life lessons at the dinner table along with my mom that really stuck through, that I think really made a big impact on the work we do today. He was like, you can build an enterprise to solve any puzzle. You just need to never give up. Nothing is impossible. You know why nothing is impossible? Because an inch is a cinch, a yard is hard. Just keep inching forward in your life, and all those things that people say are impossible, suddenly you will be there. And so he provided this platform of entrepreneurial creativity and enterprise building, and then on the weekends, we delivered Meals on Wheels with my mom. And she really helped us learn this passion for serving and how great it felt to serve and to give back. And so when it comes to things like passion, I hope that you have time when you're young to find your passion, know what your passion is about, because then eventually one day, hopefully you can bring your passion and your profession together. And that is when you will thrive in life. And so this platform that my parents really delivered to myself and my brothers and my sisters and I allowed us to reach really far. So in 29, when I was starting kind of a new journey in my life, I'm like, I'm going to bring the water back into my life. That's what I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about the water. So I started working on the water. And we were making TV shows about fishing around the world. And then I started to learn things about, how is the ocean managed? How are we going to make sure that all of our future generations are going to be able to eat a fish sandwich? Like, who in here would like to make sure that their own great-great-grandchild can eat a fish sandwich? Everybody raises their hand, right? So for the purpose of this conversation, there is no me and you, there's just us. And what are we going to do about it? So while I was working on the water, we were helping all these scientists who studied sailfish and marlin and tuna and wahoo, and they all started telling us around 2005 about this massive shark problem we had in the ocean. They started to say, we're down to 9% of our large sharks. We're losing over 250,000 sharks a day, 100 million sharks a year for a bowl of soup. And I was like, okay, well, does that really matter? They're like, oh yeah, sharks, they're the wolf of the ocean. They are the lion of the ocean. They are the balance keeper of the ocean. And I was like, that doesn't really make any sense to me. But are you trying to say a lot of big sharks means a lot of fish sandwiches for future generations? Or yeah, lots of big sharks, an ocean full of fish. And I said, well, if we have the shark problem, let's manage them back. They said, well, they're so big, we don't have the data. We don't know how. We don't know where they mate. We don't know where they give birth. We don't know how they migrate. We don't have the information to manage the sharks back from the brink. And I was like, I'm still trying to get used to this. I thought sharks ate fish, right? No. They said, sharks don't just eat fish. What they do is they keep the second tier of the food chain that's below them from eating all the fish. So if you lose the top of the system, you can't manage the whole system. And much like we saw with the wolf in Yellowstone, when you look in the ocean, if our white sharks are thriving, the system will thrive. And I was like, well, how does that really happen? I'm not sure I'm buying that. I said, well, right here in the Gulf of Mexico, places like that, you lose the sharks, the squid explode. And every night when they migrate to the surface of the ocean, they eat all the baby tuna and all the baby sailfish and there's no place to hide out there. And then the system implodes. When you go up north and you're up in northern areas like Canada or up in the Seattle area and you have seals, when a white shark is present, one white shark can cruise up and down the beach and keep thousands of seals stuck on the beach because they know if they go out there, the white shark might take them. So they sit up there until they're almost starving, and then when they have to, they get a little food and get out. We know when that white shark is not there, they eat 4 times more food every day, all of them. And they wipe out the lobster and the cod and the salmon. So I was like, okay, well, lots of big sharks. We're down to 9%. We have a problem. We don't have the data. What is the real problem? I said, well, they're so big, no one's ever been really able to catch them and give the scientists safe access. And, we'd been working on the water, and we had gotten used to working with a lot of scientists around the world, and what we said is like, well, why don't we bring the fishermen and the scientists together, right? Bring the street smarts and the book smarts together and do it for our grandkids so we can manage the sharks back. And people were like, oh, that's impossible. I'm like, oh, clearly you never had dinner with my mom and dad. Because they said nothing is impossible, right? Nothing's impossible because in life, an inch is a cinch, a yard is hard. So we just went out there and we inched forward, and here's what happened. In 2012, when we started to solve the puzzle of the great white shark on the east coast of the United States. Now, why would we do that? Lots of big sharks off the east coast means lots of fish off the east coast. So we had to solve the puzzle to manage them back, and here's what happened. So in 2012, we went out there, and people said, you know, you're not going to find any sharks. Well, we were able to find a shark, and this big, beautiful female came in, later to be known as Mary Lee, named after my mom. She was about 17 feet long, just under 4,000 pounds, and we were able to bring her in and put a tag on her fin by creating safe access for the scientists. We had world-class fishermen working with world-class scientists to try to develop new data, world-class data. And when we were able to do this, we knew that there was no book on how to do it. No one had ever done it before. But we knew we were going to crack the code on Jaws. We were going to solve the life history puzzle of Jaws. But while we were going to develop that science story, we knew also we had to undo the fear of Jaws, right? People need to understand no big sharks, no fish sandwiches, not be afraid of sharks. Look, if you're afraid of sharks and you think something might happen, immediately go home and get rid of your dog. Dogs kill hundreds of people a year. Sharks 6, right? Do not get in the car. By the way, if you're afraid of sharks, you should be terrified to make toast. 400 people a year die from defective toasters. So, it's an irrational fear that doesn't exist. The real fear is if we don't have sharks like Mary Lee laying down a track and we can't solve this puzzle and our ocean's not in balance, our great-grandkids aren't going to eat fish sandwiches. Mary Lee lays down this beautiful track over about 5 years, and she's a big mature female, right? A big mature female. So what's in there? Where she mated, where she gave birth, where she gestated, where she foraged and fed. And the big thing was we started to see that the tracking tells you where they are, but not necessarily what they're doing where they are. And I was like, oh, another life lesson at my parents' house. I forgot to live in the biggest room in the world. My parents all my life said, you got to live in the biggest room in the world if you want to make your dreams come true. And every single one of you can if you choose to live in the biggest room in the world. Does anybody out there know what the biggest room in the world is? You can just say it.
Is it this one?
That's a big room. It's a big place. The planet's big, but it's not a room. Are you ready for this? This is a life. Are you ready for the biggest room in the world? Do you know what it is? You got to live there if you want to make your life happen. Are you ready? It is the room for improvement, right? No matter how good you get at anything, no matter what you achieve, even when people say it's impossible, are you going to be satisfied or are you going to reach for more? And I'm like, I can't believe we caught this animal and we only did one thing. We tagged it. Yeah, we know where it is, but we got to know what it's doing, where it is. So we immediately shifted and we've brought collaborative teams of scientists together. And now when we work on an animal, we have 30 scientists from 20 different institutions doing 20 research projects on every single animal we touch. Right? That's shark first, that's ocean first, that's accelerating the rate of learning by spending no more money, just bringing people together on a common vision with a selfless disposition. And now we're taking bacteria samples and doing new antibiotic development for humans, right? We're doing ultrasounds, blood work, hormone testing, parasite testing. We'll put 3 different types of tags on the animal now, and we're starting to see and learn things we have never learned before. Just on this last 37th expedition we completed in Nova Scotia, what did we have happen in our ultrasound? For the first time, we got the resting, beating heart rate of a live great white shark. Now look at this heart of a great white shark. This is like a 14-foot great white shark. We started to see it's this massive heart. Boom, it beats and it pauses. These animals, their hearts only beat about 8 times per minute. And then we saw that across 4 different sharks. So we have all this now multidisciplinary science. Build a team. We can do more together than we can apart. There's no time for individual agendas, right? We just got to get this done. So there's food for the future. And because of this disposition and bringing people together, just in a few short years, now this is the data set of tracking we have with all the complementary science around it. We're learning a lot, right? These animals can't make babies until they're about 20 years old, right? The females, they are sexually mature at 20, and they have a 2-year migration because we believe there's about an 18-month period from when they mate to give birth. And when they give birth to about 7 or 8, 4.5 foot long, 45-pound babies. And the babies come out on their own, and they're on their own. The big mature male white sharks, they have a 1-year migratory loop from the northeast and Canada and that area down around and into Florida and back up each year because they can mate every year. Mary Lee led us to the birthing area of the white sharks. We now know one of the birthing areas in the Northwest Atlantic is right underneath Long Island. Check this out. Check out the lifestyle of some of these sharks. We think some of these sharks are mating in Nantucket and birthing in the Hamptons. Like, what a life, right? Like, crazy. So it's been very interesting to bring people together to solve a 400 million-year-old puzzle, and the only thing it took to do it was common sense. It was just, look, let's get rid of the individual agendas. We can do more as a team. Let's bring world-class street smarts together with world-class book smarts to have world-class data to make sure our kids can eat and see fish in the ocean. This is a pretty simple disposition to have, but that disposition was novel. That disposition in the space was different, and it all came from, I think, the special sauce that my parents gave me. You know, we all understand nothing's impossible, right? Because an inch is a cinch, a yard is hard. Right? We understand when we achieve what's impossible, we're not going to stop there because we choose to live in the biggest room in the world because we can just see further than we could see before. And the biggest room in the world is the room for improvement. Right? But here's the special sauce to making that work. My parents always said, anything's possible if you do not care who gets the credit. Anything's possible if you do not care who gets the credit. Thanks for having me.